Yes, guys, welcome back to the Natural Muscle Podcast with Luke Williams and Finn McNamara. Also got Libby on again here, I believe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Libs.
special guest. Back-to-back appearances now. And today's episode is centered around which category are you? So we'll cover all of the four primarily centered natural federations in the UK. So we'll go through UK DFBA, the slight differences, what they'll do in comparison to WNBF. Same with BNBF, and we'll also cover NPA as well. And then we can touch bases slightly on like the PCA naturals, what they do, and two bros. I think they do it in like a weight classes as they go through things. But yeah, ultimately, kind of like what category are you? And I think with a lot of you kind of like coming on this and watching it, whether you're thinking to get on stage for the first time or even as you transition from gaining more muscle over the years of training, your category may change. And it's a case of like going through the tiering system to the class which has more muscle as you go through them ranks, transitioning out of the board shorts if it's from like a male perspective, or even like probably seen as like entry level for some people. Not saying like some don't have the muscle mass there, some just may have a better shape and fit in towards that. So from a category standpoint, I wouldn't say picking your category. Your category almost picks you. Um, Due to structure standpoint and so on, you may have aspirations to go into other categories, but you've got to kind of accept like, do you have the muscle mass there now to be in that class? Generally, like from a male standpoint here, most of us will come in and like when we start training, we'll have like the t-shirt muscles. Like legs won't really be a primary focus at the start for many of us. Things are probably changing a little bit now, which is great to see. But it tends to be a transition going from that board short era, something you've done, Finn, and then working your way to like building your legs up and seeing what you can do from there, and then going over into the trunks, going into bodybuilding, whether it's classic first and so on from there. And then from a female standpoint, bikini, obviously now very, very popular for females to get into that. It's their way to kind of like dip their toes in getting into the sport. But then those who've trained for a number of years and maybe they've not got on a bodybuilding stage yet, but they've got so much training years behind them, they have the muscle mass there for a figure athlete or even as a women's bodybuilder or so on. So yeah, we're going to dive through the federations. Do you have anything to say off the back of that, really, Finn? Like to kind of go in depth from what we're going to cover through on this episode, really.
No, no, you covered it. We'll obviously, like you said, it's very some vary in terms of what they offer, and then it's we'll get into it more, but essentially, we don't have to always just be dictated to by your shape. Like if you align with a category, like in your like that's what you like, even if you don't necessarily fit in it, it might hold you back. But if that's what you align with and want to compete in, then
You got to go with
that's
that.
essentially a long and short of it. But we'll as always we'll start out with a few shout outs, and we've got a few today actually. Well, sorry, this week we've had quite a few come in, which is really good, and we've had our first female, so we posted her up this morning. So Georgia, she's the missus of Connor, who we showed on yesterday's post. So they both did PCA Scotland. Georgia won Bikini Tour, which is a really, really good result in an assisted federation. And the bikini classes are very popular in the PCA, as they are across the board, as Luke said. So it's her first showing. I believe she might just be out of the junior age bracket, so that's probably why she's doing tall. Because he's a junior, but I think he's in his last year junior, so maybe she's just out of it, unless she's just doing tall. But she's clearly good enough. It's the first ever season. She's doing the MBW, and I think with her shape, I certainly think she'll be up there to a high standard in the MBW for as we know, Natty Bikini can be a bit of a mixed bag occasionally in terms of standard wise, but on the whole, like good natural bikini girls do well in assisted federations, and we've seen it from Georgia. And then is Connor, a partner. He did PCA Scotland, but he actually sent us through because he did UK Ultimate Physiques, so UK Up. He won junior bodybuilding again against assisted guys, which is really a quality result. And he came third in classic, so he dipped his toes. He said when he messaged me, he just said he wanted to try in the open categories, and he is shredded with a capital S. Like, he is absolutely head to toe peeled. He's doing the MBW, which again, that's another junior who, like, that junior and teen class at that show could be the classes of the season. Literally in the first show of the season, it's shaping up. There's already like 2 or 3 high level juniors doing it, and he's just thrown his hat into the ring. And dare I say it, are any as peeled as him? I don't. Well, without seeing him on stage with a tan, maybe not. But he's really bringing it. He also did PCA Scotland. He came 5th, which again against assisted bigger guys was a good result, and it was quite a good junior class that day from what he said. And then this weekend just gone, just to wrap up, we had the PCA second first timers, and there was a couple more natties in there. So we had Joseph, who was only 16, and he's called Alpha Hawk on Instagram. Now, he is a freak of nature. For 16 to have that shape and that muscle maturity already is phenomenal. And we posted him up. So if you haven't seen him, just look at that most muscular and like tell me that is a 16-year-old. Like, that's incredible. I don't know because he's not. I tagged him because I'd seen it. Someone said, he was natural. He's not. I don't think he's got into touch with us, so I don't know what his show plans are. But again, if he was to do the MBW, that's another team. Because like I say, there's already like 5 teams who in any other year probably could be British champions, and they're doing that show. So if he was in it at 16, he could upset some guys who are 3 years older than him. And like I said on the post, he could have a 3-year off season and still be a teen. Like, that's how young he is, which is incredible. And then last but not least, Jordan Fowler. He's on Instagram as Vagabond Viking. He's got a very large following, actually. So it was good that he gave us like a share, which is great. He did PCA first timers. He did classic bodybuilding and came second. And the winner was clearly assisted but pretty decent for a first timer. So it's a good result for him. He is very peeled. The PCA reels don't do him any favors, like, because they soften everyone out. Because when I saw it, I thought, well, he looks softer than the pictures, because I'd seen, because Josh had sent us a couple of pictures of him and said, look, like, watch out for him. Massive arms, a really amazing back, big legs. He's just big and shredded. Again, you look at his training, he does quite a varied training. He does some like calisthenic stuff, but on the whole, it's your basics, like heavy dips, heavy pull-ups, barbell work, the drill, and it shows in his physique. From what he said, he's doing PCA naturals. I don't believe he's doing MBW, which is a shame because he would have been an overall contender, never mind a category winner contender. But at PCA naturals, I think he will easily be a category winner contender, depending obviously on the standard and the level of natural in that. But we're planning on going as a podcast to PCA naturals because again, it's a bit of a shot in the dark. We don't really know any what it's going to be like, so we wanted to go and see how it goes. So yeah, they're the shout outs. So keep them coming. We've been busy posting daily with these, which we really love doing, and we want more of them. So if we can get some more ladies, the only proviso we will say is it has to be this year. Like, we're not going to post results from last year or the year before, just for no other reason than it gets a bit messy, because it's like we could literally have thousands of posts then to go out. So as long as you're UK natty and you placed in an assisted show, or you're winning or top 3 in a natural show, you're going to get on the page. And we want people to follow these people, grow their following, grow the community, because if everyone's following grows in the natural community, the sport grows, potentially more money comes in, so that's essentially why we started this podcast and the page. So yeah, there's the wrap up, mate. So should we kick things off? We're going to go male, female. Should we dive into the male categories and then kind of talk each one through?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good way to go, especially like going into like bodybuilding side of things first. Just want to add for on the back of that as well, like even if you're an athlete and you're doing, say, you're an actual athlete going into assisted shows, which is especially common with, say, bikini athletes for more exposure and so on from there. And obviously it's great to go on and get the reels and stuff for what PCA do. But the likes of both Connor and is it
Georgia.
Georgia, isn't it? Yeah, both of them, they've actually did GBC, like in Scotland, which, as we shouted out before, Steve McDonald did. They're both placed there. So like there is the route to take, and you can still do well in these other shows. You don't have to be just do like and support the natural shows. Obviously, that is what we want to do. We want to grow the natural sport and have more natural competitors. But you can also kind of still throw in your hat in your ring and see how well how will I stand against like assisted athletes? Like, is it that different? Do I don't need to take that step if I can still be up there against them. So yeah, it's just good to see from that, and also good to know, and for kind of create a bit more kind of awareness around how well you can actually do as a natural athlete. Because I think for a lot of people who come in, and if you've just spoke to only assisted people when you've first come into the gym, they're like, oh, they're not going to do anything up against these people. But a lot of you natties are showing like it is possible. Like, so yeah, keep at it. And yeah, it's great to see us kind of like get our name out there in other federations. But yeah, we'll go through onto the male side of things. So we're going to kick us off from the kind of, say with a pinch of salt, from entry level start point, really, or I guess it's more popular as you're coming in, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Men's physique is seen as the entry level, and I think it's fair to say that, like, for most people, it certainly up until a couple of years ago, in like the assisted federations, it was what most people did to start off with, because it was like, well, I'm not 280 pounds on stage, so what can I do? And then that's kind of why physique came along, and then obviously later classic, which I'd say classic may have taken the mantle of what smaller bodybuilders now do on assisted. But like I say, we're going to talk about natural. So yeah, men's physique, WNBF, MPA, and UKDFBA do it. Obviously, you know what it is. It's board shorts. Very shape dependent in terms of what we're wanting. Big arms, big delts, big chest, pronounced abs. So make sure you are doing your ab training. Small waist, V taper, and realistically, most of them, I think, if not all, now have a junior and a masters and an open. So there's, you can. It used to be just open for most of them, which now again, as it got more popular, younger lads can go in a group together. Masters lads can obviously have a fairer playing field, and obviously you've got open lads. Again, normally done height, short, medium, tall, or short and tall, depending on how many are in the show. So yeah, it's very much men's physique in a natural federation is arguably the most different in terms of what a judging panel are wanting to see compared to an assisted men's physique. So if you were to do men's physique as like in an assisted federation, and you're a big natty bodybuilder, like we're talking like Adam Powell, let's say, just use an example, he could probably do NPC men's physique because he's big when he's shredded, like, but he would be a bodybuilder. He would be too big to be men's physique. So just be aware if you are going to do men's physique, but all you've seen is other assisted guys at your gym or people that you follow or even your coach who are these assisted men's physique guys are enormous. If you see them in person, they're bodybuilders. They're huge. They're dense. They're thick. They've got massive, massive muscles head to toe. If you've got that, a natural version of that, you might not actually be men's physique. And we've seen it where people have come on and they've been put to the side and they've been kind of like, well, you've got an amazing physique. Have you got some trunks? Can you do a bodybuilding category later in the day? Or they might say after the show, can you come to our next show, but be a bodybuilder? Because we can see your quads like sticking through your short. Like you are a natty bodybuilder. But it's because they might see the assisted side of things. So this is going to be a theme throughout this podcast, talking about categories. If you are if you've never really competed before and you're a bit unsure, either go to a natty show or look at natural federations and look at their version of the criteria. Because if you follow just the NPC IFBB and you look at men's physique from that, you would think, oh, I've got to be massive. So you could come to a show as a natural and you could be an incredible bodybuilder competitor, do men's physique, and you could almost get marked down for it in terms of saying, look, you're too big. Like they don't want someone to be basically capable of winning a bodybuilding show doing men's physique. I've seen it before. And again, sometimes it's gone well, and then other times they've like done a post on Instagram after saying, "Oh, this federation doesn't reward men's physique," and it's like it does within its own criteria. So this is just a word of warning. Go on the federation you're going to go with and look at their athletes, past winners. Go to a show if they have qualifiers or if they have an earlier show, and just look at what they want, because a natural men's physique is vastly different to an assisted men's physique. Now, of course, as we've seen with like Jack Hattersley and Josh Croggan, if you're a very good natty men's physique guy, you will still do well in an assisted federation because they won PCA shows. I think they both won PCA overalls potentially. I know Jack definitely did. And Josh went to that summer shredding championship in America, which is like it's like a standalone show, but with big prize money. For like basically it's not affiliated with anyone. It's just a thing on its own. So it can be done. So obviously in physique, does it fit you? Basically the question of this podcast. I would say, obviously, like Luke said, if you're like getting into the natural scene, it could be like an entry level, and you may even be told, "Look, you're big enough to do bodybuilding after you've had another off season." Sound okay? You transition through the ranks. Other times I've seen it is if people have had bad injuries in the lower half. So I think we mentioned the lad a couple of weeks ago when we talked about injuries. Lawrence, he was going to do junior bodybuilding and he ended up doing junior men's physique because he dislocated his knee about 6 weeks into prep, and the rehab that went around it, he decided to still prep, which is admirable, but he obviously couldn't leg train for a large part of it properly, so he did physique because obviously he didn't want to show legs that might not showcase his best, for example. So I've seen others who have got like leg injuries. Taller people, again, because to fill out their frame, you tend to see that they are better suited to men's physique. So like natties who are like 6'1" plus, because it does take a long time to fill out a frame. We're not all Theos who are like who's tall and fucking massive. So sometimes they tend to do men's physique because they might not have quite the leg thickness to stand on a bodybuilding stage. So they tend to be the reasons why you would do it, and also if it appeals to you, like I said. So if you like the posing, if you like the way the look presents itself, then do men's physique. Just like I said, my word of warning would be if you are a big guy for an natty, you probably can do bodybuilding. Even if you just love physique, all you think about is men's physique from the IFBB, that's all you follow. They're the only people you look up to. In natty bodybuilding, you will probably be a bodybuilder. Just to say that. So, within men's physique, mate, what would you add to that realistically?
Yeah, so I think in terms of like men's physique, it's like for a lot of people who go through let's say they start off through that. It's like those that do very well in that have the shape to do very well in that, but they also like they fit well into it because they actually enjoy that and they've probably seen that before and that's been their aspiration to go down that, and they want to stick through with that because they like the posing, they like the way it flows, the transitions and so on. It's more of a kind of, as much as they don't put a routine together or whatever, the transitions in between things and they almost dance through with it. That's something a lot of the top men's physique athletes like they enjoy. But I'd say from a lot of people, like if you can fit into other categories, like likely even if you're at the start, you could probably, and it's something I did as well. Like, and I had the conversation with before entering my first show, before I started working with Bob Waterhouse. He was like, I was like, what category? I actually asked him. I was like, what category should I do? And he was like, well, you could do all three. You could do classic, you could do bodybuilding, you could do men's physique. At the time, I'd have probably been, yeah, was I much smaller? Probably like a little bit, but I'd have still looked a bit odd in board shorts then, even with smaller legs, we're doing like output and stuff. So it's one of them, and it's like if you're doing it, but like because you think you're smaller, but you want to actually be in bodybuilding, I'd say just try bodybuilding and stick to what you actually love, rather than kind of, yes, you will fit into things into some degree. I'd say if you really want to do men's physique and you've got like a wide waist, it's probably not going to go too well for you because it's purely on shape. Like a taper, that's even more prominent through on that, especially when going down to like board shorts flare and you can't really see the legs like flare out as much. But Oh yeah, men's physique. It's like what you would enjoy. Obviously, different transitions to bodybuilding. We saw it with WNBF. A lot of people are still kind of when they enter, because it tends to be it's a lot of competitors in it. So you'll get a lot of people who aren't quite sure what category they're in when they're in that. And I saw it at the WNBF, the Supernaturals last year, and there was a guy who he would have been an amazing bodybuilder. He was in there, and he still managed to crack top 5, I believe, in medium. But when he did the side turns, I'm not sure how the transition is, but he was doing bodybuilding quarter turns. And I was like, that looks mint, but it's not what the others are doing. Like, so in this class, it doesn't fit to that. So I'd say like and this will translate to anything, like not just men's physique, like have a look at the criteria before you enter. Obviously, yes, you can see previous like competitors and stuff. The winner with men's physique, I'd say it will change a lot purely on shape, who's there, XYZ. Like it could be the taller individual, but it could be a smaller one like Hattersley, who's just got a wild taper. We saw it with the guy who won the overall, bigger lad, taller lad, mixed race fella. He actually trains at EP. He's got quite a big follow. I think
Oh, the British
on Instagram. Who won the UKDFBA men's physique. Top like 6 foot odd and just looks huge, but he's probably just not got the legs to carry him through in like if he was in trunks. But yeah, I guess like trying like putting shorts on and seeing how that looks, your physique, putting like trunks on and seeing how your physique looks on that. But yeah, it's an entry level into it for a lot of people. We even see people with heaps of muscle now, like you've gone from starting in men's physique, going to BMBF in 2022, winning your class there, very, very good like middleweight class there as well. And being close to points, well, a split decision on points with Jack Thorburn in 2022 on the UKDFBA Northern as well. And then we had Riaz, who was very impressive as a men's physique, then has a shed load of muscle, probably one of the most impressive side chests I've seen, like especially from the upper body standpoint. He came from that men's physique background, but it's just maybe requires more training age to get towards that, or just more preps or setting up better. Like ultimately, the first off season towards that prep, unless you've been working with a coach a long time beforehand, which is getting more common now, and it's great to see because we get better athletes to stage. But the majority of like first timers wouldn't have that great setup, so they probably wouldn't be in the best position to have as much like tissue through on the legs and like training optimally beforehand to build up towards that. But yeah, it's a great way into the sport for a lot of people. And yeah, it's men's physique. It's whether you want to stay with that. There is so many routes for say progression, like with classic physique into bodybuilding. And I wouldn't say you'd have to go from there to classic, especially in natural bodybuilding. That's not really the kind of progression route. You'll see in assisted bodybuilding, those who are doing men's physique before the weight cap anyway, was bigger, larger athletes did way more than the classic because they didn't have a weight cap. But now men's physique towards like, say, bodybuilding, that's generally a bit more of a transition, I'd say, in natural bodybuilding, realistically. But yeah, men's physique as a whole, there's not what I could really add through on that. What would you say, really, mate?
No, I think that's kind of covered it. Like I say, we're not going like in depth into absolutely every aspect of each category because we'll be here all day. But I think you've touched on something that again is going to be another theme. So one of the themes being what aligns with you, but the other one is age. In natural competing, age matters. It just does. You do have some really good teens and juniors, but as you get older, you get more muscle maturity. So every time you get peeled, it looks better and better. The muscle looks slightly different. You collect more muscle over your career. So a lot of these categories, in particular on the female side, when we get to them, it is age related. So, you know, a lot of the physique guys might be in their, you know, early 20s, you know, 23, 24, 25, but by their 30s, might just naturally be in the bodybuilding because they've just had that time growing. So certainly that comes into it, the age profile, more so in the females, dare I say it, but definitely it's a factor throughout all of them. So like I say, it's just as long as it aligns with you, have a look at the criteria, have a look at the standard of like how much muscle they want. And like I say, if you want to do it and you don't particularly fit it, crack on. But what I will also just quickly add is the BMBF has a version. It's called Athletic. So the shorts they wear are like 3/4 of the way up the thigh. So you do have to show
Like
your legs
UFC
a little
shorts,
bit.
aren't they?
Sorry?
Like some UFC shorts, pretty much, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, very, very much like that. You still don't have to have massive quads, but they are taking those into account. But again, we saw in Athletic last year, there was a couple of lads who did it, and on there, straight from the table, which is a really good video the BMBF do after each show, basically just running through and the judging. They said there was a couple of times when there was lads and Vicky took them to a side after and was like, do bodybuilding next time. You're like, you've got big legs, like just do it. So like I say, BMBF does offer a version of it, but it is Athletic. It's quite its own thing, realistically. So like I say, the next one would be Classic, which is quite new to natural competing. It's only been in what, 3 years maybe.
One, isn't it?
Yeah, I think maybe 2 or 3 years. Last year was the BMBF's first year doing it, and they had a very, very deep lineup. UKDFBA have done it for a while. The MPA don't do it, to my understanding, and the WMBF do not do it because WMBF Worlds don't do it. However, we'll go on to in a second. They do have a little nod towards that with their golden era round, which is like essentially each category, so each bodybuilding category, so juniors, masters, open, novice, you might not win it, but you could still go through to the golden era overall, because in each lineup, the judging panel will pick the best classic looking physique in the lineup. And we've seen it before where lads have come fifth, come second, come fourth, won their category. It doesn't matter. Like Craig, our good friend, he won the British golden era title in 2022, and he'd come second or third in his category. But he was the most classic of his medium category or middleweight, whichever one it was, and he got put through. And then they get an overall. So that's how the WMBF do it, because that's the judging panel in the WMBF UK like the golden era of the 80s, old bodybuilding with like Franco and all that. However, they don't have classic because WMBF World doesn't have classic. So it'd be unfair if you won a classic British title and then we're told, oh, sorry, you can't go to Worlds with us. So yeah, it's just a quick caveat. So yeah, UKDFBA and BMBF offer classic. Now I must say, not overly controversially, I don't necessarily think it is a needed as such, because a good classic looking physique is a good bodybuilder, in my opinion, as a natural. Of course, assisted, it absolutely is needed, because these guys on the open can be upwards of 300 plus pounds on stage, which some guys physically can't do that. And if they can't do 212 and look big, they'll do classic within their weight cap. So again, don't go off to, IFBB classic criteria. Go off natural classic criteria, which is very shape dependent. Dare I say it, a lot of assisted classic bodybuilders are just small bodybuilders who are not yet at a level or unwilling to get to a level of muscularity that would take them into the open. And I don't like it for that. Classic should be about shape. So in the natural federations that offer it, it is entirely about shape. They have had big guys who have, I think there was one guy, maybe Alan, it might have been Alan Rex. He won the Open show at the last UKDFBA Scottish, which would have been 2022. And then he did classic. I think he still won just because he was that good. However, Lee told him, like, you're not classic in a natural federation. You're massive. You're fucking incredible. He's pro worthy, Alan. Yeah. He just needs to nail it. His condition, and he's there.
That's it. The same is with Adam Powell, to cut you off, the year he won his pro card in 2022 at the Natural Olympia. He won the bodybuilding overall, and then there was like, oh, why didn't you do classic? He didn't want to actually do that, but he did it, and he won both. Like, it goes to show, even there at the pinnacle, as they call it, that if you're that good, if you're the top bodybuilder, you're probably going to be the top classic guy anyway. But it is very shape dependent. And I think, you may have guys that will do very, very well on like a British standard, and the shape will carry them. And we even seen that from like a teen standpoint with Josh. Josh Campbell in 2023. Like shape massively can carry you. But when you are up against bigger people, if you are not as big as them, it is bodybuilding. Like if someone is much more heavily muscled, you probably they're going to favor the heavily muscled guy if it's bodybuilding. However, if your shape is that impressive, then it does offer the avenue of right, okay, we're going to award that shape, which is why yes, I do see them very very similar, but I would say I'm with it, like in terms of they do award in shape, but that is massively say genetic, but that's bodybuilding at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, with the classic at the minute, we just tend to have just a classic category and nothing else because it's not big enough yet in terms of number of competitors, and they do because it's still fledgling. Allow BMBF I don't believe, but the UK allow men's physique and bodybuilders to try classic on the day, so you can do two classes essentially. So yeah, at the minute there's no junior or masters. There's no height or weight. I imagine they do it on height because there's just not enough competitors just yet. As it grows, they might come to a point like with the Open finals in the UK this year. There might be enough competitors where they split it in two. I think they usually wait until there's at least a dozen before they'd think about doing two height classes. Because otherwise, if you've got like 8, you've got 4 and a 4, you might as well just have a top 8 anyway. But caveat, and again, we may see this at the MBW, is World's affiliations. So the PMBA and IMBA have junior and masters classic. Because the UK DFBA doesn't offer it, he obviously has all the ages of all the classic competitors. And we saw it last year, a lad called Dylan. He came 5th in the Open Classic category of the day, but he was a junior. So he went to Worlds as a junior classic not men's physique, classic bodybuilder. Did the juniors, and I think he placed top 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, third, maybe he could have been third in the world, yeah. So yeah, that might happen with the MBW. If there's a good 42-year-old in the classic and he's good enough, Lee may extend him the offer and say, "Look, do you want to do Masters Classic?" So you can still progress within your age category potentially at a world level, but it's not right now at a regional or UK level. So yeah, as I say, it's very shape dependent, and a good classic is going to be up there. We saw it at the UK FBA overall. Jack Kinsey-Clough was to the left of Richard, who won the overall, and Josh Campbell's to his right. So Jack was in, you could argue, the top 3 for the overall at the UK FBA. So he was there or thereabouts. So like I say, there's absolutely time to, give it in terms of if you get to an overall, you might win the whole show, but you're classic. But it just shows that you are still a very good bodybuilder. And I'm sure if Jack had done, I imagine he would have ended up he'd have been a medium or a middleweight. He'd have won probably a British title as a bodybuilder. And just as another one for that, Corey, who came top 3 in the UK FBA, he won the WMBF for his height class as a bodybuilder. In fact, no, tell a lie, he was novice. He did novice bodybuilding. Yeah. And he won his pro card. He won the overall at WMBF UK last year. So he won his bodybuilding WMBF pro card, which is like, me and Luke have said it times many, which is like the holy grail for most bodybuilders. We want the WMBF pro status. Like it's the pro status. It's RIFBB, I'd argue. And then he went to Worlds and he placed, he did the pro show. I think he didn't place because it was a very big lightweight class. I think there was 16 competitors, and from what Jeff Albert said, I think they compared them for 55 minutes. They were on stage for like an hour, literally, because it was that stacked. Because you had 16 WMBF pros, like these weren't 16 Muppets, like they were 16 fantastic athletes. So I want to say he still came top 10. They only announced for top 5, but on the website they actually put all the placings. So Corey might have come like 10th, 11th, something like that. I might be wrong, so I apologise if you're listening and you were higher. So it just shows you classic guys, Jack won his pro card. He won the, he's won the Olympia. Like, you can rise the ranks quite quickly in classic, because it's still quite small numbers. So that's what I'd say is a benefit.
Yeah, it's definitely growing as well. And we saw I believe 2022 was actually the first year the UKDFBA had classic, wasn't it? So, and I didn't really know how I thought. Like now looking back, I'm like, because I entered classic and I also entered men's bodybuilding, like was in medium height class through that day. I came fourth in my class out of four in medium, with really good class. Like, and everyone above me, I was like, I've just beat by better bodybuilders, and came third out of six through in classic up against different people. But even then, I knew I was like, this classic isn't for me. I'm not a poser kind of bodybuilder. I'm not someone who's like, yes, I still want to have a good routine, and that's something like massively want to work through for the next time I step through on stage. But I don't feel classic. And I think that's what it is on classic. If you feel classic and you love to hit them classical poses and stuff, you probably fit into that category just on that alone. And you'll see it with a lot of men's physique people who would make that transition to that because they like that style of posing, probably because both have a lot of emphasis specifically on posing, which I think is a big thing really in classic. And it should be kind of, as much as that's not judged, but how you hit your poses, like it should be like important for in bodybuilding and so on, but even more just how that looks through classically with your shape and like putting a kink in so that looks as classic as possible. I think that is definitely beneficial through on there. But as you said, there's a big way to climb your ramps through on that. Personally, I don't agree with the kind of like seeing what class you do on the day and seeing where you fall. I think you like ultimately you should know your class there and they should put you in on that. And even from someone that's done two on that day, like it's just another stress as well. To try like land your best look through on that day. But yeah, it's growing now, and we're seeing the numbers through from last year in comparison to the years before. Like, yes, like Mark Willetts, great classic physique competitor, but the actual standard of the UKDFBA Classic last year to 2023, I'd say it was the class of the day, wasn't it? Like the standard there, phenomenal. And just to go to show, like Corey finishing third there, and then going on to be worthy of winning his WMBF Pro card a few weeks later. It just goes to show, and like that's it. Like you've got to be the best on the day, and that's it with these things. But yeah, moving on through from classic now, it gives us pretty good wrap up there, doesn't it? Really, but I know we touched on like posing, but it's benefit. You need to do that in both, don't you?
I'll just say about posing. Listen to this clearly. If you're thinking about doing classic, if you can't pose, don't fucking do classic. Classic's about posing. So if you're an awkward, clunky poser, or you can't pose, or I see you squirming around hitting a quarter turn, you're not classic. Just because you can do a vacuum doesn't make you classic. Like if you don't know how to pose and on show day your routine is fucking wank, you're not classic. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, you've got to be confident, kind of like doing your poses and stuff before, and even just like your random like free posing and stuff. But like that's not to say that you'll never be classic, because I'm sure like how you posed in like in your board shorts in Memphis Physique at first, you was a lot stiffer than you are now. But can you hit these
Oh
classic
yeah.
now? Yeah, absolutely. And would have thought like Jack Kinsley, like back in the day, he may have been that person. Like I know Josh Bogdani was like he'll easily fit into that category because he can hit his pose as well. He doesn't worry if he messes up his routine, he'll pull something off. And that's the standard you should be at if you're looking to go down that class. Because otherwise it'll just look awkward. And it's meant to look anything but that. It should almost look completely effortless within classic physique. Rather than looking as kind of big, like as full and as big as possible as bodybuilding is, as much as we might be less than 200 pounds on stage. But yeah, going through onto bodybuilding now, I think that's a good way to take us through onto that. Do you want to go through the slight differences from classic to bodybuilding, Finn?
Yeah, to be fair, mate, I don't think we need to spend an awful lot of time on bodybuilding. Everyone knows it by now. It's been here since day one. As shows have been going essentially for over 100 years. If you really go back far enough. So yeah, with natural bodybuilding, this is the biggest difference between assisted and natural federations. You 100% will not land in an assisted open bodybuilding lineup as a natural. I will say that with my chest out. Like I know there's the odd one who got their pro card in it, but they will not do bodybuilding. Like they just won't. There's just no chance. They will not do open. It is just so far and beyond. Even if they did 212, like you would just look so small. Like Richard, who won the UKFBA overall and then has gone on to win his pro card, he's a massive, probably one of the biggest, certainly amateurs, but probably one of the biggest in terms of weight, body weight on stage. That is, we've seen in this country. He was about 95 kilo on stage. Like that would just put him just around the like 212 category. But if he, even though he's very tall, if he was stood next to 212 guys, he would look like a skinny junior. Like, and that's no offense to him. Like, we're just being real here. Like, this is the biggest difference. So, if you are a good natural athlete, more than likely you will be a bodybuilder. We're just going about classic bodybuilding, but if you're a good bodybuilder, you will still have a classic look. In my opinion, a very good natural bodybuilder has a natural classic look because you should have a really small waist, great X frame, all the good stuff. So, for bodybuilding, it is, it's mass with condition, shape, symmetry, everything you'd want to see. Obviously, it's the most popular one. There is teens, juniors, masters, grandmasters, and then the BMBF even do like the over 60s, over 70s, and even over 80s, which is incredible. There's novice, so that's if you've not won a show before or been to a finals. You can be novice for the whole year, so don't worry if you win a show like this weekend and you're wanting to do the novice UKFBA at the end of the month. It lasts for your season. It's a novice season, not a novice day, essentially. And then there's open. So the WMBF, MPA, and UKFBA do short, medium, tall. And the BMBF do lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight. And usually it's not always, so don't quote me on this on show day if you're 1 kilo over and you blame me. It's 70 and 80 kilos of the cutoffs usually, or 72, 78.
It's a it's a guide. It depends, and on that, like what tends to happen, especially like with qualifiers, because BMBF do qualifiers and stuff. The actual threshold for the cutoffs tends to be higher through qualifiers because people will then drop maybe that extra, say, 4 to 5 pounds from then, depends on how far the qualifiers away from the finals. So I believe when the Midlands last year, because I was actually asking, not last year, in 2022, I was actually asking Mark about this. Oh, what was the cutoff for lightweights? And it was 72 kilos then. And I think it was 70, it was about 70, but I was like 70 point something and fell into lightweights in 2022. So it's a guide to being around. Like, you still want to nail the best look, but then if you know you're on the cusp and you know who's qualified for British finals, you can kind of pick your battles that way. It's a tough one, really, isn't it? Because like everyone would love a British title, but do you want to sacrifice the best look because of that as well? But for the matter of a couple of pounds, will it sacrifice that much overall? It's a controversial one, isn't it?
Yeah, like for me, if you're just on the cusp, it might be worth sucking that little bit of weight down. But for the most part, it's going to ruin your look.
Yeah.
So if you're like 72 and you think you get told ahead of time, I don't know about the lightweights, is going to be 70, 2 kilos when you're peeled is going to make you look worse to take off. Again, you see this in the Open, you see this in the Classic with the assisters. They can take that 2 kilo off because they can use diuretics. They can use things that won't take necessarily the muscle away, so they can suck right down and then look twice as big when they fill back up. If we suck down, we're not going back up more than likely. We're just not. So my advice is just present your most shredded, muscular self. What your weight is, you weigh that. If you're like 0.5 of a pound off, maybe like don't drink or eat anything until until the weigh-in because it's usually the morning of. But for the most part, I think you run the risk of just losing your look and ruining the physique as a whole. So, of course it is. Of course it is.
And Yeah, that's one thing you want to like minimize on the day. And like as much as yes, conditioning is definitely like at the forefront with natural bodybuilding, and you see more peel conditioned guys in the natural federation than you probably will on like assisted stage, especially at the top level. For some people, you could be a very, very good top athlete, but to get say your glutes in, it requires losing so much fullness that it actually would like worsens your look. So it may be the case that your best look is when your glutes might not be fully all the way in. And that's something you've got to kind of accept. And you'll know more and more as you go through that. And we know with certain individuals that that's the case, like even using like say Theo, for example, I've never seen his glutes inside out, but he's won overall titles before. Like it doesn't benefit him to do that. And then we even seen it with last year with Mattia, Keith's client. He won the BMBF Northern overall. He was a middleweight then, and I think in the British finals he placed second for, and he sucked down, and he looked a lot smaller, and I don't think he actually benefited his look or his placing.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just one thing to note for you, especially if you're first time competitor, or if you're on the cusp. Like, just try and nail the best look, really.
Yeah. So, like I said, in the barometer of like what this podcast is saying, are you and what category are you? Like, yeah, I'd say the vast majority of you listening, you are a bodybuilder, whether you like it or not. Just at some point in your career, if you stay natural, you will eventually be in a bodybuilding class, unless obviously you win pro status as a men's physique and you just stay there and keep going like that. So for the most of us, we are bodybuilders. Whether it aligns with you or not, I know a lot of the lads these days align with classic because of Chris Bumstead and the whole, like, what's the word, like, just aura around doing classics and like it's popular, like
The in thing is
the gloomy black and white photography and like the like looking away, hand on face, kind of like stoicism, all that bullshit. Like, yeah. We saw some of that at the IMBA Worlds actually, which was funny. But I think a lot of the lads align with that. But realistically, you're a bodybuilder, just to kind of close that. And then we've actually this just before we go on to the females, I just wanted to cover because this really ties in well. So Flex Luger sent a question, and if you don't know him, then well, where have you been hiding? So he's DFAC Pro. He won 2022 DFAC overall, and he won the middleweights. And he is an incredible bodybuilder. He's won UK and FBA British in 2020. He's incredible, absolutely incredible, head to toe. And he sent me a question and just said, people say that he's a bodybuilder, but he prefers classic and he likes classic. What do I think? What do we think? So I'm going to say this clearly. In a natural federation, Flex, you are a bodybuilder. 100%. Like, your arms, your legs, your back, fuck me, like, massive, dense, thick muscle. On now, we spoke about this, me and him, privately. He could do an NPC or a two bro show in classic, and I think he could absolutely. He's one of the natties that could push for a win, an overall, maybe even a pro card in the right lineup. I think he's more than capable. I think there's only a handful on this planet, Kendall being one. Obviously, Bob, when he did win it, now he, not being speaking out of turn, he does take a little bit of assistance now. There's only a handful on earth who could, in my opinion, do pretty decent in a. We're not saying win a pro show, but could be second, third call out in a pro show, in classic. And I genuinely believe, Flex, you are one of them. So if that means anything to you, or it doesn't, but that's my personal opinion. And we're close enough, we are mates. So I hope that does have some sort of credence with you in terms of you are a bodybuilder on a natural stage. Don't do classic. You're too big, but you are capable. Like, he is a natty rough diesel. I think, like, his shape, his size, his proportions. So I just wanted to say that, like, if you're listening, you will win as many natty bodybuilding pro shows as you want, basically, in my opinion. But if you want to do a classic, I think you're capable of it like an NPC. And with this introduction of the Two Bros Naturals, like I roll saying that for those audio listeners, obviously Flex or Liam, he is completely natural, but he could take some of the fake naturals easily. He could beat them hands down. And if that's his ticket, like Flex, he's capable of going to the Olympia via the natural route. I genuinely believe that. It's a bold statement, but I think if he got his card and he did the natural the natural NPC Pro Show, which qualifies you for the Olympia, it's usually in November, they're saying. I think you could naturally qualify for the Olympia, genuinely, going down that route. I know Kendall wants to do that. I'd like to see him stood next to Kendall, personally. There's a massive height difference. Kendall, I think, is 6 foot or more. And Flex, you're a little bit shorter than 6 foot. I won't, I'll just say that. But apart from that, like that's what I believe is that good. So, little fanboy moment aside, I hope he's listened to that. So, like I say, Luke, we'll jump into the females, and we'll start with kind of their entry level in bikini. So, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, so you'd say it's probably the most, I'd even say, is it the most popular actual bodybuilding show at all as an amateur in the UK? Probably like category wise, we probably have the most competitors in that, which you can only say like it's done a lot for the awareness of bodybuilding. It's probably had it more in the limelight and more eyes on it. And I think it's helped a lot to say females kind of like have purpose through in the gym, thinking, oh, there's something that I can do where I don't need heaps of muscle, but I stay like within a feminine look, what they think towards themselves. I still have my shape, and those who've not trained that long, like an entry level, and see it's called bikini, so it's like to look good in a bikini effectively. Obviously, like conditioning is required more than what would be in a standard, say like bikini, like for going away for a summer holiday and something. But yeah, it's expected. That's bodybuilding. But yeah, I think it's proved very, very popular. It's a great way for a lot of the female athletes to kind of like dip their toes in and see where they fall with that. But I think this show, well, this category specifically, it's a lot through on the actual glam of the show day itself, making as much of the actual show day experience with obviously like the accessories that go with it, so much in towards bikinis. I know like as a female competitor, it's a lot more of it's a huge investment in comparison. How much goes into towards in bikinis, the jewelry on the day, the heels. There's a lot that goes in around the actual presentation and presence of that, which one thing I would say with bikini athletes, and even those who will come who are not, say, at the level or the condition they should do, be there at, basically, but they want to kind of like dip the toes in and see where they fall. The presentation for novice bikini athletes is generally they're very good with the posing. Like they always drill in towards the posing. And if you could take a leap like from anyone's book, from a category and a competitive standpoint, look at what them bikini girls do and the effort they put in towards their posing, because that's what us as bodybuilders should be doing. And they put a lot of effort in towards that. Now, could that be more put in towards them, the training standpoint and so on? I'd love to see that as a hardcore kind of bodybuilding fan. But yeah, it offers a route for them to step in and see if, right, I want to actually have more muscle if they see the other girls there, or if they're like, you know what, this is for me, and they can see the progression from that and they can enjoy the process of training. And maybe for some people, they've just got the shape that suits it. And some individuals, they don't put the body fat on. They don't like being like a little bit softer to actually grow tissue, and they can do it regular. It's like a yearly thing with that. But yeah, bikini, like entry level, similar to like men's physique, but from the female standpoint, a bit more in terms of like the showing the presentation. Let's say similar in a way in terms of like how the transitions are completely different towards, say, figure and the bodybuilding side of things, which you'd say figure is more leaning towards classic from like a male standpoint as well before you go into like female bodybuilding. Um, but yeah, I think there's a lot of great athletes out there, but I'd say same with bikini, like as I'd say with men's physique, there's some that go into it that shouldn't be like they're not actually bikini. They've got more muscle, and I've known my manager at the gym I PT'd from before. She entered for a bikini, and she's got enormous quads, great back. Like she'd be a fantastic figure athlete, but she fought because that's what people do as the first time competitor. She'll go into bikini, but I know deep down she'd do very, very well in one of like in the UKD FBA as figure, in WMBF as figure. Even if she did it at like say PCA and not the actual PCA naturals, I'm confident she'd do well. So yeah, shape carries you very, very well with that. Obviously, they want like a small waist, similar to like men's physique. Wide structure in terms of like delts, wide clavicles, pretty much good delts. Glutes is obviously like prominent from that. A good set of calves can prove very well. Can even in men's, can in everything really. But I think a lot of good bikini athletes can do very well in say in figure if they wanted to do that. Whereas I know it's not as likely as say males going into men's physique and thinking, right, I want to go in towards, I want to push for more muscle to go into that next class. Some of them may not actually want that. But yeah, what would you say as your kind of overall take through on bikini, Finn?
Yeah, mate, I think you've absolutely nailed it. I think just to go over like the admin side of it, so the WMBF, UKDFBA, and MPA offer it. Usually there's junior, open, and masters, and it is height class in the open, so short, medium, tall. But yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed it, mate. I do firmly believe. I know some people aren't the biggest fans of it, and I will say, as like a hardcore bodybuilding fan, um, you tend to see more people, dare I say, in bikini who probably shouldn't compete just yet. You've just not got any muscle, and that's not on the whole. I'm just saying the on the lower end of the standard in some lineups. But I will say what is really good for bikini, and like you said, it's the most popular class of any show, generally assisted or natural federations. It's a big, you'll get 20, 30 girls per natty show easily doing bikini. And like you say, and I think this stands for all female classes, you said, they're posing, women pose far better than the men. They pose far, far more like flowy, and it goes better. They clearly practice it all the time, and I think that's something us men can and really learn from. And the bikini girls are absolutely no exception. They are really, on the whole, you tend to know you don't really see bad posing in bikini classes on natural stages, because the posing is a massive part of the process, which it is for us clearly, but in terms of like practicing in their gyms, practicing in studios, it's a big part of it. I do think bikini is positive for, it's not just the entry level, like, so particularly naturally, but even more so assisted. A girl who goes to a gym, does a bit of training, grows a little bit, but like you said, to do figure and even beyond like physique or bodybuilding, like you have to have a vastly above average muscle amount for a woman. Then if you take the average woman, you have to be in a very small percentile of the amount of muscle you could carry naturally to be a figure, to do bodybuilding, to do physique. So I think it's tailor made for a lot of girls, because obviously that does come down to genetics and lifestyle choice and their beliefs. If they just want to just train a little bit, most of the time you will fit into bikini category. But like Luke said, you'd have to really push body weight, push performance, and push food to go into figure physique bodybuilding down your career. And if you're happy to do that and you want to, great. But we know as a society that's not the dumb thing, and it is such a hard thing for women to do, to allow themselves to gain that 20 or 30 pounds even in an off season to grow a required muscle to do figure or another category, because you've got the societal norms that people will look at and go, you know, if she puts a picture of herself in like a training top and leggings, obviously she'll be very curvy because she's got carrying a bit more body fat. Women do, unfortunately, but she'll be pushing her body weight up. And we saw it the other day with and I don't know her status. I don't know if she's natural or not. But George Osborne's missus, like, she put a post on of her transformation from like on season to off season. She's gained them. She's pushed her body weight up high levels. And the comments were just, it went viral because it got, you know what the algorithm's like, and the more comments it pushes it through. And I don't follow it, but it just came up on mine. And everyone was, all these accounts were just basically calling her fat. And like, oh my God, you let yourself go, all that, this, it. And this is what I mean. So most girls don't, she took it in a stride and was like, no, it's off season muscle. This is what it looks like. But most girls don't want to go through that because that's hard. Like, it won't just be online, but it could be even, you know what, mums and daughters relationships are difficult at the best of times. But imagine a mum saying, "Oh, you look like you gained a bit of weight," to a daughter, like that end her mental health like on the spot. So I do completely understand why it is popular and why girls will stay around that, because to do that you have to go from men's physique to men's bodybuilding. In terms of percentile population, I don't think it's as small. Whereas to go from like natural bikini into figure and bodybuilding, you're talking very small percentile of girls can like put that level of muscle on. So that's what I'd say for bikini in terms of it's. I understand completely why, and I think that's a positive level because it still allows these girls to compete and do something that they're passionate about when either themselves, society, or their genetics will hold them back from, you know, progressing through. And like I said, if you're a high level, pro level, British title level bikini girl, you are more than capable of winning assisted shows, if not assisted pro cars. And again, we've seen this. So yeah, bikini is, it does have its critiques, myself included in for some aspects, but I absolutely do see the value in what it offers these young girls. And again, as we talked about on the bloke side of things, you tend to find the bikini girls, obviously there is masters bikini, are 18 to 30. They are on the younger end a lot of the time. And then as they get into older age, potentially they transition through into figure. Because again, if we head on into figure in a second, figure tends to be a little bit like late 20s, early 30s, and late 30s competitors. It's very rare you get a high quality figure girl who's like 20, 21. And again, if you do, they're a genetic freak. They exist, but it's very rare, very, very rare.
And I'd say through on bikini, Finn, it's like the difference. What I'd say from like an entry level standpoint in comparison to men's physique is that you don't tend to see as many people like transition across to the figure classes and so on. They'll either stick with it. I think it's good for them to have because they don't require as much muscle mass prior to doing that, or it's not as much say like commitment through, or well, it isn't in terms of years. Like you can do it with less training years and stuff. But a lot of these bikini girls, like some of them will not compete again, which is a lot more popular than other classes. Like that's the reality, and it doesn't have as long as a shelf life as like bodybuilding and figure does and XYZ. But yeah, most like natural like figure girls, they'll probably start at figure, but they was kind of made for that. They didn't really pick the class. They was like, well, I'm just going to train like I do. Oh, I'm like gaining a lot of muscle. Like, see what this bodybuilding is about. I've got the shape and the muscle mass for it. And that's where we go from there. But yeah, bikini, it's like very, very shape based, isn't it, really? And for a lot, it's like if they don't want to push that body weight up. And for a lot, I'd say it's when people like doing stuff outside of that as well. It's not just their primary focus. They may be doing some runs. They might enjoy doing like 5Ks and stuff as well, alongside. And that's something you can balance quite well with doing that because you've got less muscle.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think that wraps it off nicely. So figure I'd say, because obviously the women's classes go from like softest to hardest in terms of condition. Figure would be the next one up. a hell of a lot harder than bikini. But what we're looking for in figure is the shape, that feminine structure, that X frame. It is very, very shape dependent figure. Again, similar to men's physique, if you haven't got a figure frame, you probably will get told to do another category. In my opinion, probably physique. If you've got enough muscle, if you haven't got the muscle, they'll probably tell you to do bikini because it is very dependent on the big delts, wide lats, small waists, sweeping quads, but not hard separation in the legs. Usually, the defining factor between figure and physique, or fit body or athletic, whatever we're going to term it as, is separation in the lower body. Most women will have separation in the back, and like delt striations and things like that. But on the whole, if you've got like proper in legs, and hamstrings particularly, or even glutes, which I've seen, like it's rare on women, but you do see the striations, you'll be told your physique. So that's like the cutoff. So you want that shape, and they're a lot of muscle. They carry a lot of muscle. These figure girls, again, like I said, they tend to be in the late 20s or 30s, on the whole, because they just have open and masters, and every federation offers figure. All natural federations offer it, and like I say, they are looking for a shape, a figure shape, and we've seen it time and time again where a girl with more muscle, with better condition, will not win because there will be a softer looking girl who has the figure shape. And again, as a competitor, you've got to be willing to accept that critique because you should know the criteria. If you go in knowing the criteria, you're going to be okay. And if the judging panel says, look, the softer like figure frame will win the day time and time again, even if you had bigger quads than it and bigger delts, that's what they'll go for. So just be aware of that. And if you are completely aligned to figure and you don't want to do physique, fit body, or athletic, don't push condition too hard. Again, this is where don't look at the IFBB. IFBB figure, they are peeled to the bone. Absolutely peeled. We don't want that in a natural federation. Judges don't want that. They will move you to physique. Now, the good thing is, in a lot of the federations and a lot of the shows, they will let the girls do it because it's the same poses apart from, I think, physique shows above can have arms above the head. Yeah, and figure not. But the quarter turns are pretty much the same. You'll be asked to do a couple more poses in physique, a few more muscular poses. But realistically, like, they've done it quite a lot, and they might do it at the MBW. If a good physique athlete comes out in figure, they'll say, "Oh, just stay and do physique," because normally it's the category after, or they allow them to enter both because, as they appreciate, some girls might not know which one of the two. So we'll kind of cover physique and fit body and athletic in this because essentially it is figure. It's just a more conditioned. So you're going to have leg separation. You're going to have glute ham separation. You're going to have lines in your legs. You're going to have a far more conditioned abdominal section, for example, because abs and thigh, I believe, is actually one of the poses in physique. So so you're a lot more conditioned for fit body. Fit body is WMBF. Athletic is BMBF, and then physique is UKFBA. The MPA, I think, just has two. They have trained and toned figure, and I don't want to say which one's which. I think trained would be physique. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, correct me, please. MPA. So, like I say, they are different names, but essentially it's all one and the same. If you do fit body, you will be athletic. If you do athletic, you can do physique. Depends on the federation on the day. Again, smaller classes, so they're just open. There's no age categories or anything like that. Again, they don't tend to be much more than half a dozen girls. As we were just saying, for the bikini reasons, you can get 30 bikini girls, 10 figure, 6 physique, and 1 bodybuilding because the level of muscularity in the percentage of the population is smaller and smaller and smaller. So most of the time, a very good, well-muscled female will be within figure, athletic, fit body, physique. And again, as we were talking about the classic, within the physique fit body criteria, you can see amateurs rise the ranks quite quickly because it is such a small pool of athletes. You can go from being an amateur in your first show to British and pro card winner within 2 shows and placing in pro shows. We've seen it. We've seen it a lot. Damo's client Barbara, she competes like every year because she just loves it. Like the most enthusiastic person I think I've ever met at a bodybuilding show. Like she's a lovely woman, lovely woman. She's competing this year. She actually took last year off, which I thought was hilarious because she never does. Oh no, she didn't. She might be taking. She definitely no. She had 6 months off, I think. So there we go. But she loves it. So she's a very good physique, and she was prime example. She did the first MBW Classic show in 2022, and Lee was blown away when she came out, and he was like, "Fucking hell! Like you're exceptional." And she's in her late 30s again. I don't want to talk about a lady's age. She went on and went to Worlds, went to the Olympia off the back of like her. It was like a third ever show. Was like the Natty Olympia, and then last year she came around, did it again, did INBA Worlds, and again, so it just shows you that you can jump up quite quickly and win major honours if you are in physique or fit body and you've not long since done it because if you're that good, you will stand out soon. So yeah, as I say, they're usually good classes, they're usually very good routines, I will say, and I'm sure Luke will agree. They're usually the routines of the day because they'll do like the gymnastics almost. It's almost a bit like fitness. They'll do a lot of handstands, the press up things, splits. Like it attracts that kind of person, and maybe that's to do with a lot of the backgrounds. If maybe the dancing and gymnastic backgrounds, obviously you carry a lot of muscle in those professions. Maybe that carries over with your training. So yeah, I think what would you add into the figure, physique, fit body, athletic criteria?
Yeah, so I think that the big difference from going up from say bikini towards them categories like figure, fit body, athletic would be a big one's like the training and the training style, which will show them and get them to their level of muscle mass. The difference between them and the like for men's physique competitors, they'll train like a bodybuilder. But for bikini, their training won't be like a bodybuilder like the other classes are. Like not the same as the rest of the classes. For most, there may be some that do it, but I'd say the vast majority don't. They'll typically do a kind of a higher volume approach. Something I've seen over the past, but then bringing through onto the actual classes themselves, you can be in figure and stuff. It's very rare to be like too big for that, as long as your shape kind of goes with it. And I think it's one of them where it's got the more muscled. It's kind of like in the middle, leading towards that next step through on going towards bodybuilding. But those who still want that feminine kind of like more feminine look really. And in terms of condition, especially from a female standpoint, a lot of that will be like genetics. So you may not pick where you fall. You may be one of these individuals that diets down and you do have striations in your glutes and stuff where you will fall in towards that kind of like the athletic kind of the physique standpoint instead of the figure, just because of that. Which we saw with, I think it was Beth last year, wasn't it?
Beth Hills.
Beth Hills cleaned up in the WNBF. Really conditioned, but then up against, say, someone more shapely like in WNBF Worlds, like a Becky kind of Pateman, more of a figure look, or same with like Meg. Two different looks there, so that will kind of dictate where you fall on your category. And you may be someone who's kind of like in between of picking both, and I understand, and I'm glad like they allow you to put you into other categories with females, especially when there's less competitors, to find where they're best suited. Because you could not place as well in one of the shows, even in bikini, if your legs are too big from your training, like you maybe even go on to another one where it'll be new this year as well that UK, the FBA are doing, which is wellness. But you could be a female that doesn't enjoy really like training their upper body as much, or just doesn't carry the muscle mass there through on it. So wellness could be your route away from bikini then as well. So there is a lot of classes and a lot of variants with female categories, which you'll kind of like you'll hear from us going through this. And some they're very marginal. You could prep for a show thinking you're going to be bigger, but you just get quite peeled for a female and end up in physique. Like it could go that way. But the good thing is, like, it doesn't require much different. Posing's pretty similar. You still get the same kind of glam show experience as like a lot of the other female classes do. But I think it is definitely growing now. And yeah, shape definitely is a warning on that. Boys chilling away.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think you've completely nailed it there. And at the top level, it can definitely be that. Like you say, Beth is a fantastic fit body athlete, and Becky is probably a figure athlete, but was conditioned enough on the day, and with that shape and condition, just beat Beth. But Beth was, like you say, it was her novice year, it was her debut year. Like, literally did WNBF first timers, won the overall, went to did UKFBA, came. Did she win? She won. Did she win the British or to come second?
What would it be? Is it physique for UK the FBA, isn't it?
It's physique for UKFBA, but she
Oh yeah,
did
she
that.
won.
Yeah, because
Yeah, WNBF
yeah,
won.
she did. Because or did she do figure with UKFBA? Either way, she did. She did one.
Yeah.
One of the two and won. Then went to won a pro card and then went to Worlds, and she was up there. But Becky Pateman, who from Australia, is a very, very good fit body. She's probably like the epitome of like a fit body look that WNBF want. It's basically figure with condition. So like you say, it's very shape dependent and it will reflect your training. Luke's 100% right. And this next category 100% reflects your training. So the last category, and we'll just wrap up after this, bodybuilding. Very small category. You tend to get one per show at a regional, and at finals it might be 4 or 5 tops. I've never seen more than that. But it's getting more popular. I know with like Loz, AJ's partner, she's making it more popular because she promotes it and is also preparing to do it. And has taken a very long off season to do that. So again, credit to her for that. And you tend to get a lot older. So like Claire, I'm not going to butcher her last name. I don't want to say that because I know I'll get it wrong. But Claire is a multiple British winner and is now a pro winner and has placed at pro shows. Claire, I don't want to say it. No, I'm not going to say because I don't want to say something stupid. But her last name begins with a G. And I think she's in her late 30s, 40s, and she's incredible amount of muscle. But like I say, because of how rare it is for a female naturally to have that amount of muscle, that's why the categories are so small. You'll at most regionals, there'll only be one usually, and then finals, like I say, might be 5, 6. But again, that gives you the opportunity. You can rise the ranks and go to an Olympia, go to a WNBF Worlds, go to a X, go to a Y. But you tend to get with that, if you look at any of the federations, the pro winners, it's the same. Like the WNBF one, the legendary one is Lisa Lum. I think she's in her 60s now, and she still keeps placing top 3 at the WNBF Worlds, and she has done for like 20 years. Like, she just, because like at that level, like the best will just be the best. Like, she is an absolutely legendary figure. I never actually saw it until it got reposted the other day by WNBF, like her routine at Worlds, and it were amazing. She came out on a Zimmer frame and like hobbling around as if she's an old lady, and then threw it and started like doing cartwheels, because showing that, yeah, I'm in my 60s, but I'm a fucking pro winner of a bodybuilding show still. Like, stop me, I dare you. So she's a legend, and women's bodybuilding is very small, but can be quite, it can produce these gems of like even if there's 2 people on the day, one may be like pro level because it's so rare to get women's bodybuilding. It may grow more, but again, as Luke hinted at, and I said, like, it would require someone to take their training and body shape past the average woman's kind of ideal who goes to the gym, which is not unfair to say at all. To do women's bodybuilding like Loz is, it would take someone who's like passionate about doing that. You wouldn't accidentally like, oh, I've trained a bit. I reckon I can do bodybuilding. You could do that if you're a bloke. I'll be honest. Like you could accidentally do men's bodybuilding because you'll have trained for a bit. You might have a bit of muscle. You can't accidentally do women's bodybuilding. Like you, and it will take years. Like again, I know Megan who placed top 5 the 2022 finals. She was a bit of a sensation because she was only early mid 20s. And everyone else, is usually 30s and beyond. You're not going to get a 21-year-old good ladies bodybuilder. You're just not. And if you do, that person is Keithy level of female freak, like genuinely, like muscle at that age. So, as I say, bodybuilding would. It's not something to go massively in depth on for the females because it is a very small one. But essentially, what they're looking for is the whole package. You're not in heels. You're barefoot like us men. Bodybuilding poses, muscular poses, hard poses. Again, usually good routines on the whole. And like I said, all the way through, the women's posing is better and the routines are far better. And I'll debate anyone on that. So like I say, good, just tissue head to toe, big legs. A big upper body, like you train the upper body, like you're a bodybuilder. It's in the name. So, as I say, I think it's a rare one to do, and probably 99.5% of girls who listen to this and who compete don't even have to consider thinking about it because it's just something that they either won't or can't attain. And that's not disrespectful because it is, how many vastly above average muscular women do you see walking down the street drug free? You don't like. Yeah. So as I say, this you tend to the good bodybuilders tend to be like your ex powerlifters or current powerlifters, people like that level, like or gymnasts or things like that. Where they've had like or I think even one was a rugby player, which again makes a lot of sense. So that kind of background, like it's quite genetic.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I'd say one thing I would say from female bodybuilding though, and the bodybuilding category specifically, is like if you've come from like figure, you could well fit in towards that because you probably carry the muscle mass to do well, specifically in like a regional, because there's probably not going to be that many in that. But if you love your training, you love like bodybuilding, you can do that. And like we've seen those at the top who have got muscle, been around the sport for a couple of years, like Xena last year, got a pro card in was it figure, I believe it was, wasn't it? BMBF. So it would be DFAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
she
DFAT, yeah.
yeah, so she did bodybuilding on that on the day as well. And she had the muscle mass there through for it. She was the best bodybuilder there on the day. So yeah, it is there to do like, and let's say if you're considering it as a female listening to this, watching this, like give it a try within like if you can do 2 classes on the day, and if you're at that level where you've got that muscle mass, it's not to say you can't do it or you can't make that say popular from there. But if you want to have the experience of wearing your heels, doing your routine that way, then maybe like sticking towards like figure and physique and stuff is probably more suited for you. But if you want to do the more kind of the male bodybuilding poses and stuff, then yeah, I guess give bodybuilding a go. But yeah, you wrap things up pretty well through on female bodybuilding. Like I say, it's not as popular as male bodybuilding, and it's the big reason as of why, because they're going to have less muscle mass. They're going to lean towards bikini and stuff like that, and that's why it's good because it gets them into the sport. It helps grow the sport, but it's also more likely for them to actually continue with it because it's less requirement for them, basically. Shall we go through
Yeah, so
some questions to wrap things up through on there with?
maybe very quickly, because like I say, I've got to shoot in like not basically a couple of minutes. So if there's one that's very quick, if not, we may have to just skip because I do have to shoot.
Yeah. So the one through on here I had in regards to, do you choose your category or does your body type choose it for you? We've kind of and pretty much covered that off. So in everything we've said here, which is good. And the key one is actually from 3 times British champion, the teen, Josh Bogdana, which is a good one. I was actually going to bring up in the middle, actually after bodybuilding, similar to what you was actually saying about flex. But he's put, should elite level juniors, novices, or even teens jump straight into men's open category? I personally I would say do your class you can do then, like whether you're a novice, you're junior, or a teen, see where you fall. If you win your class, you'll be up there in the overall. You can see where you stand against the best of the best of that. Obviously, the best will be, then you'll really see how you are against from there. But if you feel like you stand your ground from there, then yeah, why not give it a try? Like, what have you got to lose? But I'd kind of put your eggs into where you've got most potential through for that year, really. What are your thoughts on that, really, Finn?
Yeah, absolutely. And if he's talking about during the season, you could try it. A good junior, a highly good junior, can easily win the Open. Adam Powell won his pro card and overall British title the year after leaving the juniors. So there you go. Just shows you. If you're a very good junior, you will be a very, very good Open. Teens, again, unless you're Josh Campbell or Josh Bogdani, might need a little bit more muscle. So potentially it might take a few years to get to an Open, but Josh Campbell won an overall. So in the right lineup, you definitely can. I definitely agree with you. Do the one that you are in terms of age category or novice status. Like, I know some people who are like very well muscled, but they are novices. They've never competed before, and their coach or even them are like, "Oh, I'm going to do the Open," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, do it. There's nothing wrong with that, but you are a novice, so you might as well. Like, it's not cheating. Like, you are a novice. You just because you're a very good novice, just do it. Like, I've got a guy who's inquired, and he's potential freak of nature level novice bodybuilder. We will do novice next year, like, because why not? It's not picking the low hanging fruit. It's not an easy win because we're not guaranteed a winner at all. But he is novice, like, so he ticks that box. And if he's good enough, he might get promoted in overalls. He might. Ben Lloyd won his pro card as a novice, like, because it just shows you like that's what it can be. So for juniors and teens, more pertinently, absolutely, I think a good junior can do the Open, and the teen in a right lineup can absolutely do it. But I think does Libby
Libby,
agree?
yeah,
So
yeah,
for
I'd even say
the
this.
audio listeners,
I'd
Libby
even say
is
the same with novice
asleep,
as
sat
well.
up.
Yeah, I'd even say the same with novice, to be fair, Finn, because like that's your only chance you've got to actually do novice. Like, let's say if you was to win a show for after. So like, why not utilize that? And you can still have everything you can have by doing the open classes, even if you're that good. And we may even see it this year, with one of the novices. You could win your pro card. And you can do that as a not. You can even do that for as a team. Maybe not for the Europeans, but like if you know you're that good within the UK realm and you've maybe been up there with the overall or like won an overall, like yeah, absolutely give it. Why not give it a crack if you're potentially up there for getting your pro status, whether a teen or a junior. But yeah, see where you fall within your kind of set category, and then assess things from there. Really. But yeah, I think that's a good one to wrap us out on. To be fair, Finn, how would
Yeah, mate. It's I've got to take this one to the vets.
yeah,
So
all
there
good.
we go. They'll enjoy.
Nice wrap up time anyway. So yeah, we appreciate you all for watching. We appreciate all the shares, tags, mentions as well. Like I say, messages through if you've competed recently, if you've placed within a show, if you've done whether it's an assisted show or obviously there's no natty shows coming up until a couple of weeks now. It's not far off anyway, this month now. But yeah, if you've done any shows, if you've got shows lined up, just yeah, reach out to us, let us know your thoughts through on things. And yeah, if you've got any other questions and stuff, like things you can ask us, like as previous competitors, yeah, shoot us a message through on the Instagram page, and we'll be more than happy to give you our opinion from that. But yeah, thanks for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and we will see you in the next one, guys. Peace.